Welcome to the next episode of the Gallic War. In the last episode, we learned that the Belgae called together an army to go into battle against the Romans. It was estimated that the army was approximately 300,000 strong. However, it is assumed that this figure included women and children. More likely is a force of 70,000 men. The rest wasn't able to fight. Caesar then called a meeting and demanded that the children of the Remi were taken as hostages. However, not only the Remi were present at the meeting, but also the Haedui. He spoke to their leader, Diviciacus, and asked him to ravage the fields of the Bellovaci in order to weaken the enemy. In the meantime, the Belgae had gathered their army and prepared to march, whereupon Caesar took the initiative and led his army as quickly as possible across the Axona, which flowed at the very edge of the Remi territory. They set up camp by the river because it was an ideal position. One side was protected by the river and thus secured the supply of their allies. A bridge led across the river where he set up a garrison. On the other side of the river, he left a garrison of 6 cohorts under the leadership of the legate Quintus Titurius Sabinus. He fortified the camp with a 12-foot-high rampart and an 18-foot deep ditch. 8 miles from the camp was a city of the Remi called Bibrax. The Belgae tried to conquer the town. Like the Gauls, they proceeded as follows. First, the walls were completely surrounded by men. Then, so many stones were hurled from all sides that the defenders fled from the walls. Then they formed a shield wall and advanced towards the city gates. They tried to set these on fire and undermine the walls. When the night interrupted the siege, Iccius sent a messenger to Caesar asking for support. At midnight, Caesar sent his reply in the form of Numidian and Cretan archers, as well as Balearic slingers, with the messenger serving as a guide. The arrival of the auxiliary troops boosted the morale of the defenders, and the besiegers realized that a quick victory was not possible. They therefore changed their plan, and after pillaging the surrounding area, marched directly towards Caesar. They set up camp 2 miles away from the Roman camp. Based on the distance between the guard fires, the scouts assumed that the camp was about 8,000 paces wide. Due to the large number of opponents and their notorious bravery, Caesar decided to avoid a battle for the time being, but he tested their skills in daily mounted battles. After a while, he had a better idea of their fighting strength, so he decided to go into battle. He sought out a naturally favorable position and took up position there with his legions. The Roman camp was situated on a hill, with his legions standing on the broad front extension. On both sides of the hill, they built 400-step-long transverse trenches with forts and throwing machines at the end. The transverse trenches ensured that the Romans could not be surrounded. After all, they had to do something about their significant outnumbering. The 2 recently formed legions remained in the camp as a reserve, while the other 6 legions formed up in battle formation. The Belgae took up their positions on the opposite side. There was a swamp between the armies and neither of them wanted to cross it. Meanwhile, a cavalry battle took place, which the Romans won. The legionaries then retreated to their camp. Without hesitation, the Belgae hurried to the river Axona, which, as already mentioned, flowed behind the Roman camp. There, they tried to lead some of their troops across, conquer the fort commanded by the legate Quintus Titurius, and tear down the bridge. If they failed, they would content themselves with ravaging the fields and cutting off the supply. Caesar therefore had to act. After receiving the news from Titurius, he immediately sent the entire cavalry, the lightly armed Numidians, the slingers and archers across the bridge, and rushed to the legate's aid. A fierce battle ensued. The Belgae, who had already crossed the river, were mercilessly massacred by the cavalry. The others were stopped by the missiles. The War Council came to the decision to break off the battle and retreat. There they could use their home advantage and try to protect the border. they would also no longer have to worry about food supplies. Following the decision, they left their camp at night, making a great deal of noise without maintaining any particular order or chain of command. Everyone just wanted to get home as quickly as possible. The scouts reported the chaos to Caesar, but he held back his troops for the time being, fearing a trap. At dawn, however, he sent his cavalry to pursue the fugitives. Caesar entrusted the legates Quintus Pedius and Lucius Aurunculeius Cotta with the leadership. The legate Titus Labienus followed them with 3 legions. They reached the rear guard, which put up a brave fight as they broke off their retreat and joined the battle. Those in front continued to seek their fortune in flight. Nevertheless, they were overtaken by the Romans and mercilessly massacred. Only at sunset did they let go and retreated to the Roman camp as ordered. That was a great victory for Caesar, but the Belgae were far from defeated. He could not give his troops a break. Another battle was needed soon, while the Belgae were still in a state of shock. See you soon, your geek philosopher.